agenda for today. And you'll just need to, yep.
Okay, so we have a great meeting planned for everyone today. And I'll go through the agenda as Sean mentioned. So first we'll talk about the history. So we want to give folks some context of how we got here today. So we'll go over the request for proposal, community advocacy, and community engagement. And then we'll jump into community benefits. So what are they and why are they important? And how as a community we can learn more going forward. Then we'll dive into a Q&A session where you can ask your important questions and learn about how you can get involved. So now I'll go to some reminders. Jonella, if you can change the slide. Perfect. So a few reminders as we're gathered here today. Please share kindness and empathy with your neighbors. Listen with an open mind. So this space is for all of us as community members, as residents, as staff. So please make sure you take space, make space, and respect space. Next slide, please. Just a reminder, our friends at Regent Park Focus will be recording this meeting, so you can access it again at Regent Park TV YouTube page and regentparkfocus.com. Okay, so we wanted to do a poll before we begin our meeting, just to get it a little interactive. So we have a few polls ready for folks. If we can activate the poll. So for those of us who are joining with the device, you will see a poll pop up on your screen in just a moment. And for those of us who are joining with calling in, I will go through each option for folks. And please press *9 for the option that applies to you. So the first question is, how much do you know about community benefits? So the three options are, I know a lot about community benefits. I know some things. I'm not aware what community benefits is. So my friends who are calling in, if you know a lot about community benefits, please press *9. So whether it's from members from the coalition, staff in the community, your neighbors, your friends, please press *9 if you are aware of what community benefits are. I'll give a few moments for folks to press *9. Okay, we can move on. If you know some things about community benefits, you know things here and there, please press *9. Again, if you're somewhat aware of what community benefits are, please press *9. Perfect. Great.
And while we're waiting for the results to come in, I would like to give an opportunity, and I know, Marlene, you didn't have quite a chance to talk about.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we'd love to get some words of welcome from you while we're working on this.
So that's
poll.
where you want this to come in. Okay, because I thought it was before that.
Yeah, so if you want, we're live with folks right now. So if you wanted to give some words of welcome, that would be great.
Oh, okay. Yeah, hi. Thanks, Annisha. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for coming. I'm Marlene DeGenova, and along with Lloyd Pike, I am the co-chair for RPNA. That's your Regent Park Neighborhood Association. Now, the RPNA seeks to foster an inclusive, diverse, and healthy neighborhood in which all residents feel at home. The RPNA recognizes that Toronto community housing residents have always had a vibrant community in Regent Park long before redevelopment. And RPNA seeks to develop, to build on that history of grassroots initiatives and resident-led ventures and strong neighbor networks to ensure that this heritage is not lost. TCH residents and RPNA leadership team positions are split 50-50 on all of our team leadership positions. The RPNA seeks to foster an inclusive and diverse, healthy communication through advocacy, community building, and communication. Our core values are that members of RPNA seek to be inclusive, constructive, action-oriented, trustworthy. The Community Benefit Coalition came out of the RPNA advocacy work, and tonight you will hear how that work began and how the RPNA team worked with organizations to secure strong community benefits. But for now, I'll turn you back to Annisha.
So Annisha, are you having some issues still, or are you able to join us with?
Sean, are we live now?
Yeah, we're going out, Marlene. We've just had some technical blips. So we'll continue on. Thank you very much, Marlene, for those points. We'll move on to starting up the brief history. So if we could advance the slides, that would be great. So today we're going to talk about the history of how we got to the RFP, some of the community advocacy and activism that's happened, and the collaboration and engagement that's happened in the community. So we're really excited to tell this story, and we can advance to the next slide. So some of the things we're going to talk about today are around the 12 principles of revitalization. So Deany will talk about those pieces, and we'll also talk about some of the engagement that has been done. The development of the community has been through a lot of engagement that's happened in the community, community parks, athletic grounds, the original STP and the refreshed STP. And then we'll talk about how the RFP for phases 4 and 5 has progressed. And I'll pass it on to Ismail for the next slide.
Thank you, Sean. Much of this history has been a long time. And the reason why we want to share this brief history with you is that we will go from the origins, where it all began, to where we've been having collaborations and conversations. And at that time, we will explore how the community have been engaged.
Sorry, Ismail, if you can unmute. There was some echo. If you can start again. Sorry about that.
No worries. Is there still echo?
Yeah, you're good now.
Yes, thank you, Sean. So tonight you'll hear how the work has began from the beginning, the origins of our collaborations on community benefit, and then you'll hear a little bit of how community with Toronto Community Housing and the Neighborhood Association started a conversation around how to improve our community through phase 4 and 5. And then through there, you'll hear interviews from people who sat in different committees with Toronto Community Housing. And in those committees, you'll hear some of the work and accomplishments they've received. You'll hear residents as well as youth as well. Back to Sean. In the next session as well, this is at the height, which is the community engagement and advocacy. You'll hear from a lot of youth who've been part of the conversation, and you'll hear some community members who sat in different working groups. So we wanted to retell this story in an interview style, and as we explore how the work began from the beginning to how a collaboration has happened, to at the end how through advocacy work we've deepened community engagement. This is a fun story, as well as a very interesting year for our community. So you'll hear this through an interview panel from organizations to youth and to residents. So I would like to start us off first from the origins. The origins is, as you know, community benefits is not something, is something new to our neighborhood. And in many ways, there are different ways that it's new, and they're different, and sometimes it's not new. So I would like to start us off with a conversation with Toronto Community Housing around how this work has begun. And the first question I have here is, actually, before I ask this to Toronto Community Housing, I'd like to invite Deany Peters, a longtime resident of Regent Park, as well as someone who's worked a long time with community. And Deany, the question I have for you in terms of how this work began, the origins, can you tell us how the community has always been part of the revitalization process? And what are some of the ways the community has always been involved?
Okay. Can you hear me? Yes?
Yeah, yes, we can hear you, Deany.
Okay. One of the first ways that the Regent Park residents had an opportunity to influence the redevelopment of the community was to work in collaboration with Toronto Community Housing on the creation of 12 principles that would guide the process. These 12 principles are actually still in place and still very relevant today. And of the 12 principles, 3 of which are really relevant to the Community Benefits Initiative is number 4, to involve the community in the process. The residents would be involved in many aspects of the revitalization planning, from building and design to safety management, and to having an opportunity to talk about the kind of investments they'd like to see in the community as a result of the redevelopment. Number 5, it was to build on the cultural diversity, youth skills, and energy. We have a lot of very talented and gifted people in this community, and we want them all to have the opportunity to contribute to the redevelopment of their community. The other one is to create a successful and Toronto neighborhood. A community that can benefit from the redevelopment has a much better potential of being created as a very successful Toronto neighborhood, and one that we can all be very happy with and very proud of.
Thank you, Deany. These 12 principles were sort of vision for how the expectations of the community around revitalization. So at the early start, the community has always helped guide what revitalization would look like. I would like to invite Marlene to sort of speak to us around some concerns that has happened when the community found out there was a communication gap, and that phases 4 and 5 was going through a different process than phases 1 and 2 and 3. Marlene, could you tell us that early shock of the community, if you're able to? Marlene, are you able to, can someone let me know if Marlene is muted?
Yep. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you, Marlene.
Okay.
To repeat the question, Deany has just told us that communities have always been part of the process. They've created these principles to help guide how revitalization looked like. And from phases 1 and 2 and 3, work has been going. But there was a little bit of a change in phases 4 and 5. The community has learned something new. Could you help unpack that for us as well?
Yeah, we were informed quite suddenly that they were going to be looking for, they were putting out a new RFP for a different builder, or just a change in builder. And as I said, quite frankly, the community was in shock. The message had always been from TCH, from the city, and from all of Daniel's advertising, for that matter, that Daniels would complete the entire project. And we had created relationships with, within the builder organization. And when we heard that they were going to have a new process, we really felt sidelined. And furthermore, when we discovered that TCH had known about this for years and had never informed the community, it really felt like a betrayal. So what RPNA did was to contact TCH, and we set up a series of conversations to negotiate a better way to be involved in this new process. So out of these conversations, 2 new committees were formed: the RFP committee and the Revite working group. Now you're going to have an opportunity to hear from residents in those committees who were involved in those committees later on this evening. So, after some time, it feels like this was a very long time ago. There's been so much work done in the meantime. So, here we are, a great deal of work later. It's not been that long. The results, the process has not been perfect. But I think that all in all, I think that most of the community would agree that we've made some major strides, both in the gains for the community and certainly in a much improved working relationship with TCH. I think that's been really, really important on both issues.
Thank you, Marlene. And I think the reason why we're starting from the beginning, from those 12 principles to a smooth collaborative partnership from phases 1 and 2 and 3, then to this news that phases 4 and 5 will go through a different process. That's a shock, yes. And I'd like to invite Sean to speak to us around where that gap has happened. I know that we've had conversations. I know that we've evolved, but could you help explain to the community where the failure in terms of that gap of information and how we've moved forward and did collaborative work together?
Sure, certainly. So as you mentioned, there has been times, and I think it's always been a bit of a learning process for us here at TCHC and generally in the community about how we can communicate and do a better job of communicating. And when there was that gap, some of the major learning was how we can continuously engage and connect with the community. And as was being mentioned, we really saw some major improvements in the relationship as a result of some of the advocacy work that RPNA and community members brought forward, and also the responsiveness that TCHC had in those moments. So as Marlene had mentioned, two of the committees that were created were the RFP committee and the Revite working group, and those committees served some great purposes, and I think really helped to rebuild the relationship and improve our relationship and move forward in a very positive way. We've seen a lot of great results over the last little while. I'd like to actually introduce some folks here and ask some questions. I'd like to go on to the next slide and speak with Suzanne. So Suzanne, if you're able to unmute, we had some questions because you are part of the RFP committee. And can you talk a little bit about the RFP committee? It's a Request for Proposals committee. And why was it necessary? What kind of benefits did it create in the community?
Thanks so much, Sean. So as Sean mentioned, I was one of the committee members that included people from the community, directly from the community. I represented not only the community, but also RPNA. And one of the reasons why we wanted to be included in the committee was to influence the language and the requirements that Toronto Community Housing would be looking for from the potential bidders. And this is important because we were channeling the voice and the wants and the needs of the community through this committee. We're also included because we wanted to provide some kind of awareness as well and a little bit of oversight. The more hands-on that community members are in this process in the beginning, the better the outcome for the community. And not only does this shape the language in the actual documents itself, but it shapes the language that's in the contracts with whoever will be winning this particular bid, as well as it shapes the language that's also included in the community benefits agreement as well. Not only that, it's more collaborative. So again, the more that we are working side by side with Toronto Community Housing and the developer, the better the outcome it is for the community. And also the RFP committee around this time was still fielding requirements from the community as well. And along the way, we also got in touch with the Toronto Community Benefits Network and started our discussions with them about how we could form our own agreement between the community, the developer, and Toronto Community Housing.
Great, thanks, Suzanne. You know, I think that reflects upon the great organizing work that the RPNA did to ensure greater involvement and push forward with pieces from the community benefits. And, you know, some other work that was done was with the Revite working group, which was also something that was pushed forward. And Daniel is in the meeting today. Daniel, could you talk to us about what the Revite working group is and what its purpose was?
Thanks, Sean. So the Revitalization Working Group, or RWG, it's a group of residents that works with TCH in the development of an engagement strategy for phases 4 and 5 request for proposals process. So the group is made up of 3 TCHC tenant council members, 3 RPNA members, and 6 community members who aren't involved in either of those groups. So the purpose of the working group is to understand and prioritize issues related to the revitalization of Regent Park, to be informed through lessons learned, and to create a space for stakeholders to work together, and also to report back to the community on our work. So the group has had 2 initial priorities. The first was the development of a fair, transparent process for community members to be engaged in the phase 4 and 5 request for proposals process, as Suzanne mentioned. That was designed to select a developer partner. and this included attendance at a community presentation last October. So this work included 3 pillars of engagement for the request for proposals process. The first was to understand the RFP. So we worked with the community to ensure residents were informed about the process. The second pillar was to create questions for the developer presentation. So we worked with residents to develop a set of questions that were asked of the potential developer partners at the presentation. And the third pillar was to score the developers at the presentation. So residents had the chance to score each developer proponent based on how they responded to community's vision for Regent Park and based on their ideas for creating opportunities for residents through the revitalization of the neighborhood. So we had a total of 227 residents attend the developer presentation last October that attended and scored the presentations. These scores were incorporated into the overall score for each proposal, and this will help determine the shortlisted proponents for phases 4 and 5. Finally, the other key priority for the working group, which is also the current focus, is the development of a fair process for the selection of an organization or multiple organizations that would use potential community space in phases 4 and 5. So this work is just beginning, and there'll be more to say on this in the future. Thanks.
Great, thank you very much, Daniel. So I'll throw it to Ismail to speak with folks on community engagement and advocacy.
Yes, and I just wanted to just recap for everybody that all the things you're hearing right now has been happening over the 2018. What do you call it? 2017, 2018, from where they all began to where RPNA and other residents in Toronto Community Housing, we engaged in conversations with Toronto Community Housing to improve how revitalization happens. So at the start of all of this, that conversation led to setting up committees. And those committees is what you're hearing right now. An important committee from Suzanne was the RFP committee. And the word RFP here is the request for proposal. When Toronto Community Housing, as a developer, they sent out a proposal seeking proposals to how to build, who would be best to build. So typically this process is an internal process, but because of conversations with them, they allowed us to co-develop the process with them. So these 2 committees you've just heard from are provided input and feedback into that process. This has been a new and innovative process, and some of the accomplishments you've just heard. We inserted language of community benefits in there. We helped to develop the presentations, and through the Revite working group also, we've increased the community score. The community score was higher because of the work of the Revite working group as well. So next, I want us to have a conversation with a few people around that early conversations through committees, and another advocacy effort began. And I want to invite community members and youth to speak to us around this next advocacy and collaboration and a deeper engagement happen. First, I will be inviting Marlene, the co-chair of the SDP, as well as RPNA, to tell us around the creation of the Community Benefit Coalition. We have these 2 committees, why we created a new coalition, and then after that, I will speak to Walied and youth also. So for Marlene, I wanted to ask this question, which is, how was the RPNA Community Benefit Coalition created? And can you talk about how organizations and residents were involved?
Well, the Community Benefits Coalition was created through the RPNA advocacy work. And as I remember, I was talking to Ismail one day about this nonprofit group he met and wanted to introduce to the RPNA. And actually, Ismail, do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Thank you, Marlene. And I think to set the record straight, I think at the time, we were new to this process. I was supporting the association as a part-time contractor. And one day I was sitting at City Hall, and they were doing a workshop, and I was flipping through some cards, and it read community benefits, and I didn't know what it was at the time. So I flipped the card around, and I saw that it talked about when development happens, the community should benefit directly. This was, wow, we're going through $1 billion revitalization. Do we have community benefits? And at the time, I used to visit the different organizations in the neighborhood, and I came to CCL&D, where Soraya works. And I used to come to different neighborhoods and organize. And when I was talking to Soraya, Soraya introduced me to the Community Benefits Network, and they were around in the neighborhood as well. And through that conversation, we realized that we needed community benefits here in Regent Park. And at the time, myself, Soraya, and Khumsa from the Community Benefits Network with Megan, the previous co-chair, we met and we had a conversation of how we can bring community benefits to Regent Park. Through that conversation, we set up meetings to create a larger coalition. And I wanted to showcase that the coalition, so from CRC, Fred Victor, it wasn't Fred Victor before, but from CRC, Young Street Mission, Community Health Center, all the different organizations in the neighborhood came together. We invited TCHC residents and we started the coalition movement. And I think that's where it all began. And I wanted to bring it back to you around without the leadership, without the acceptance and flexibility of RPNA, this could not have been possible. I just wanted you to add from your experience over the years how the coalition evolved.
Well, I mean, I don't know how there's that much more to add. I mean, for us as an advocacy organization, it was very exciting. And this was a natural for RPNA. We could see that, obviously, it would be a great asset to get involved. And, we were there to be able to gather all these other organizations together, and also to be able to, as a coalition, to be able to get the community together to get all this feedback and see what the community actually wanted. So, it went from there, and it's been tremendous.
100%, and I think what do you call for the residents who are watching this, this was happening in parallel. We were having conversation in committees like the Revite Working Group and the RFP Committee. At the same time, the Community Benefit Coalition work was activated. So we were working at different levels. And I want to invite Walied. At the time, I remember we were in a hurry. It felt like we were catching a bullet train. So I remember Walied Khogali at the time joined the coalition and strengthened us. And I want Walied to tell us around some of the work that we've been able to do, and especially to highlight what is the community priority report and how was the community priority report created. And I think I want you to share that experience and what you've been able to, and how you've been able to strengthen that work. Please go ahead, Walied.
Thank you so much, Ismail. I hope you folks can hear me clearly. And I just want to start off by acknowledging we have a lot of residents on our call today, which shows the level of interest in sort of the priorities of the community. So I want to thank everyone on the call. And I also want to remind all of us that the community benefits efforts actually started because of you. Actually, when I ran for city council, I remember meeting a lot of folks in our community who asked about community benefits, who asked about specific priorities like good jobs, home ownership, as well as investments in the community that will be directed in supporting our youth. So this effort was because of you, and due to the leadership of the RPNA, our Regent Park Neighborhood Association, we were able to do this great work by collaboration with residents, by making sure that folks are aware of our history when it pertains to development in Regent Park and what we were able to secure, such as Daniel Spectrum as a space, and also our Pam McConnell facility as well as a pool. And this was because of communities like Regent Park demanding that development be centered on their needs. The Community Priorities Report is a reflection of those priorities. It was through a campaign that was supported by our youth, who, in fact, one of our youth, Abrar Islam, is going to be speaking next as to his involvement. But it was many of you that actually showed up to our community update meeting to not just better understand what community benefits means and our goal to achieve a community benefits agreement, but also you wanted to tell us what your priorities were. You know, home ownership is one of those priorities, good jobs, training for those who want to work in the development of Regent Park. And also we wanted transparency. We wanted to have a better sense of what are those investments look like and what we're getting out of it as a community and as a broader public. So the campaign to put together the priorities report also involved some of our elected representatives who we met with to engage with in the conversation about funding those community priorities. But before I conclude, I just want to quickly ask my good friend Abrar Islam, if you can hear me. Abrar?
Before you introduce the youth, I wanted you to unpack a little bit. Apologies, but I wanted you to unpack a little bit I think this was a unique experience. I think I remember on a weekend, this is Saturday and Sunday, we were able to bring 100 residents into the CRC space. I remember at the time you called me and you told me, hey, we need a big space. Because we need the community's input and voice into this. And I said, on a Saturday, on a Sunday, can we get 100 people, all these people on a Sunday? And then you said, don't worry, buddy. I have the experience of pulling community in. So could you tell us about that unique experience of pulling people in on a Saturday and how you managed to do that? And then you can introduce the youth after that as well. And I have one question for them as well.
Thank you so much, Ismail, for that specific question. How we were able to pull as many of our neighbors to a community space right here at the CRC located at 40 Oak Street was because many of us have relationships in our community. We know what the challenges are. We know what the systemic barriers that exist that impact so many of us from accessing economic opportunities and are able to live in our community without fear that we are in transition, that we'll be moving to another neighborhood. And the way we went about it is we got youth involved. We got a lot of youth, a lot of folks who care about these issues to start engaging their neighbors, the other folks in the community about participating in this important conversation. And we did that through phone canvassing. We did that through knocking on doors. And Abrar can quickly speak to that experience and what he learned from that experience as well. So Abrar, if you don't mind, I just want to quickly introduce you. Abrar Islam, one of youth outreach volunteers for the coalition. Go ahead, Abrar.
Hi, my name is Abrar. I got involved in the community benefits movement in Regent Park by supporting the Community Benefits Coalition because youth matter. We are impacted the most when we are forgotten and the investments to create good jobs and opportunities are not made. We want to own homes and have families one day. We want the investments in a pathway to home ownership and creating opportunities for employment, training, and support for our involvement on our community.
So Abrar, when you're canvassing, sorry to interrupt you, what happened?
When I was canvassing, I met other youth who also wanted to be involved in the process. It's crucial that we involve youth in the creating of a community benefits agreement. I would like to thank Walied and Kumsa for the support offered and opening doors for youth like myself. I learned so much by getting involved in the Community Benefits Coalition, and so will you. Please get involved too.
Okay. Thank you so much, Abrar, for your involvement, and thank you so much for your call to action to involve the youth, but also to get involved in the process. We really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
And I think in many ways, when we were at that meeting, I was shocked. I was shocked at the level of engagement, the level of enthusiasm by the youth. They were knocking doors on Friday. or what do you call, on Saturday. And in many ways, I started to believe in community because I think each of us have different strengths. And at the time, some of us were busy with documents, with doing research, and we were exhausted. And then here was a breath of fresh air where we had another set of strength come in. And I think I wanted to thank Walied and Khumsa and the youth and Abrar for that amazing work. And I wanted to bring here, to throw it to Sean, at the same time, when the coalition was forming and developing a priorities report, the Revite working group was also doing some interesting things. So I want to bring Sean and explore what those things were. Sean?
Sure. So I'll actually involve Daniel here, who is, again, a resident member of the Revite working group and has put in a lot of effort and been part of creating the developer presentation where residents were able to score each of the 3 potential developers. So I'd like to reintroduce Daniel. Daniel, could you tell us why the developer presentation was necessary?
Sure, thanks, Sean. So the developer presentation was necessary as a way to get the community involved in the RFP process for phases 4 and 5. So the working group, we engaged with the community ahead of the presentation to understand what was important to residents for the next 2 phases of the revitalization. So we planned a strategy to maximize the role and voice of residents in this process. It was important to get the community involved to ensure potential developers understood what was important to residents as part of their bids and potentially if they were selected. And so, as I mentioned earlier, the community had the chance to score developers on key areas of priority for residents. This was the first time something like this had happened in Toronto. And as a result of this process, TCH and the scores provided by residents, TCHC is now negotiating with the developer partners, all 3 developers, in terms of selecting a developer for phases 4 and 5.
Thanks, Daniel. And I think what was really key there is how much residents were engaged through this collaborative process to co-create an engagement strategy. And the resident scores really made a difference in this whole process. If it weren't for the resident scores, right now TCHC wouldn't be negotiating with all 3 proponents. And I wanted to turn it over to Jonella and just move forward to the next slide so that we could talk about the community benefits framework. And the happy folks that you see in the picture here are just some of the people that worked together on the community benefits framework. Jonella, could you speak a little bit about the community benefits framework? Like, what were some of the main points and what does it mean in terms of collaboration?
Thanks, Sean. So the community benefits framework was a very important document. It was co-developed and signed between TCH and RPNA, and this framework provides the principles of how TCH will work with the Regent Park neighborhood to create and implement community benefits for phase 4 and 5 of the revitalization. And this framework, it really is a culmination of all the work that's been done from the beginning of the RFP. And speaking on that collaboration, it establishes that formal partnership between TCH as this master developer and RPNA representative of the community. So what is significant about this is that it outlines that process of collaboration and makes sure that these promises made throughout this process are secured. And this not only includes that the community can speak into that year-long process of developing a community benefits plan after the developer is selected, but it also gives the coalition access to the community benefits terms that were secured through the negotiations, as well as gives the community at the end, when the community benefits are given, that opportunity to direct where these financial investments really go towards the community. And essentially, all of that, and with that heightened community involvement process, really contained within this document. This framework will ensure that the values such as transparent communication and accountability and accessibility are really demonstrated throughout this whole process.
Great, thanks so much, Jonella. You know, part of this was that TCHC and the Regent Park Neighborhood Association were working together, as we mentioned, in a collaborative fashion to create this really critical document, the Community Benefits Framework. I wanted to bring in Marlene here, who is one of the co-chairs, as we know, of the RPNA. Marlene, why was it so important that the RPNA signed on to the Community Benefits Framework?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure that's the question I'm looking at here.
Yes, Marlene, apologies. I'm just realizing that this is a new question. So this is part of embracing the messiness of our work. We work at different levels. So I think you'll have to entertain this as you're being asked. Sean, could you repeat the question? And then Marlene, this is a new question for you. Yeah.
So Marlene, I think what we're wondering here is, why do you think, as someone who represents the RPNA, that it's so important that TCHC and RPNA were co-signatories on the Community Benefits Framework? Why is that important?
Well, I think it's really important that we're both, oh God, what's the word I'm looking for? That
I can add a bit as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for instance, I remember, what was it? If you look at the picture that you're looking at right now, you see at the center, you see two advocacy co-chairs. You see Marlene in there, what do you call, beside Deany, and you see Ines there, also TCHC, who's the advocacy chair. And I think in many ways in this community, there's a balance that we are striking. The old way of doing something, only organizations, only TCH, collaboration is at the heart of our work. And I think in many ways, when we started this work, the RPNA needed to be included. And since community benefits was something important to us, we needed to be part of that. And I think part of the early time when we identified this as a goal, we didn't think it was possible. We thought this was innovative. It will take a lot of effort. And I think part of that effort is we set out the goal, and a year later, we were signing an agreement, a framework for community benefits. So I think, Marlene, we spoke a little bit about this long journey. Why is RPNA needed as a signatory? That this was not something to be done alone.
Yeah, it was a very, I'm sorry, you caught me a bit off guard. It was a very long journey. And I think that there was a cultural change, I think, that was happening that really needed to happen. And we were coming in really hoping for something different. And, you know, working with the community, and certainly RPNA, you know, as advocates for the community, and promising that with the community that we would stand by them, looking at a new way of doing things. Once we got to that point with RPNA, there had to be a commitment on both sides, and we had to trust each other. And you know, going into that kind of collaboration together, we needed some trust and some commitment together that we were going to do this, and that was important.
And I think it was historical at the time because Lloyd Pike at the time, who was the chair for RPNA, actually signed that framework. In that framework, all promises we had, all the agreements we had was promised in a framework. So that this meant that both Toronto Community Housing was accountable to the promises that we made. and we have that signature with Lloyd and the senior development from TCHC, and that was historical.
And I think many people in in the community still don't realize that this was unheard of, and it's really important, and which is the other reason that we really like people to get involved. This is unprecedented. We need people to be involved.
Definitely, and I think that this whole history that we're going through really demonstrates the progress that has been made. And I will say, like, the history of work and advocacy that the community has always put into the Regent Park neighborhood, and this ongoing relationship between the community and TCH, and how it's been strengthened through this type of collaboration. So that's been fantastic, and it's great to see this photo. I know that was a long night, and we accomplished some great things by working together there. And
I want to say one thing too, Sean, sorry to interrupt you. The response, remember how we began this conversation, the origin, that, what do you call it? There was tension in the beginning, but I want to just communicate to the residents of Regent Park and everybody watching this, the level of responsiveness we got from TCHC. In those conversations, they were honest with us. Some things that we asked for and advocated for, we couldn't get because it was too risky. Other stuff that was unheard of, they were responsive. And so I just want to be able to say that we started in a very rocky place, but I think that promise was kept. And I think in many ways, the responsiveness and the input that we provided was incorporated throughout the process. So I just want to acknowledge that we started very tense, but I think we demonstrated collaboration when this photo was taken.
Great, thank you. And it's almost like this meeting. We started a little rocky and we're sailing away. So I want to go back to Marlene for a second and just advance to the next slide, because the next step in this process, Marlene, was really about creating the social development plan. So the social development plan is something that's in Regent Park, and it's a key element of the work that happens in Regent Park. So we have the Community Benefits Working Group. It's being created. Could you talk about what does the Community Benefits Working Group do?
I'm sorry, you've got different questions than I have.
No problem, Marlene. Maybe I can help you out a little bit.
You'd like me to get the next question here, Sean?
Sure, no problem. I can talk a little bit about the community benefits and the work that it does. So
I can say, what the importance of the STP, and to hold, why we had them hold the benefit plan.
Definitely. So I'll come to you in a moment on that. So just to talk about the Community Benefits Working Group, the Community Benefits Working Group is going to be a group of residents and members from the Community Benefits Coalition and TCHC staff, other stakeholders who will work together to develop a way of engaging the community, including some of the learning series that you'll see out there, and to involve the community in the decisions that are necessary to finalize the community benefits plan. So that group will work to make sure that we're going out and connecting with the most amount of residents that we can possibly achieve, and speak with residents and make sure that residents have a real meaningful contribution to developing this community benefits plan. And Marlene, I think you were getting at some of the points of why the Community Benefits Working Group, which again will help to create that engagement and make sure that people are involved in the decisions. Why is it so important, Marlene, that goes under the social development table?
you know, the job of the SDP is accountability and decision making. So I mean, it was obvious, you know, that we would do this, and it's, you know, it just made sense that that's where we would put it. So, you know, as such, it made sense for to put it under the Community Benefits Working Group to be included under the umbrella of the SDP. The Community Benefits Working Group will work on a strategy, engagement strategy, to support residents' decision-making in the neighborhood around community benefits, and work on accountability, evaluation, monitoring, and implementation of projects. So this is what you can get involved in now. And it's important, you know, to get involved in the Community Benefits Working Group, and because you can make a difference. And there is so much to do. I mean, years ago when we came to you to get involved in the RPNA, in truth, we weren't ready. You know, we didn't have enough for you to do. Now there is so much to do, not just in the Community Benefits Group, but in so many other groups that are going on. You have no idea how much is going on right now in so many areas. And your voice is needed and your work is needed. So call your RPNA and find out what's going on and come on in, because we need you and we need your voice. We need to hear from all areas of the community what is happening, because without you, we won't know, and we don't want to make the wrong decisions. So please come in and join us.
And Sean, what is SDP? That
Sure.
word, it's a very linguistic. Yeah.
I can speak to that briefly. So the social development plan, for those residents who may not be aware, is the guiding document and the group of committed folks that are engaging the community and working together to improve quality of life, to create social inclusion in our neighborhood, and to focus on 4 focus areas: safety, employment, community building, and communications. And so it's so key that this work, which will create benefits in the community, fits with that broader work, which is looking to improve quality of life for residents in the neighborhood, and is focused on those 4 focus areas, ultimately to make sure that everyone in the neighborhood, our neighbors, feel included and involved and can participate fully in the neighborhood. So I would like to move on to the next slide, which is just the agenda. And I want to recognize for all the very patient residents that are on the line, for all the speakers as well. We'll try to stay on time as much as possible to make sure that you have time to answer questions. So in the next section, we are going to talk about what are community benefits, what are they exactly, and how you can learn more, because there's a lot to talk about, lots of different subject areas, whether it be employment or spaces for folks to enjoy, affordable home ownership. But we want to talk about what are community benefits next, and then we'll give time towards the end of the meeting. We want to make sure we have lots of time for that, for some questions from everyone that's in the meeting and listening on. So I'll turn it over to Kumsa, please, who will talk about what are community benefits.
Thank you, Sean. Good evening, everyone. My name is Kumsa Bakr, and I'm with the Toronto Community Benefits Network, short form TCBN. And we are a community labor coalition of groups that have including community groups, labor organizations, labor groups, as well as social enterprises. And the goal of our network is to support neighborhoods across the city that are facing redevelopment. Regent Park is one of many neighborhoods and areas of our city that's seeing a lot of investment and a lot of development. And I think with that comes a lot of change, and to think about, what are ways where the community, especially residents who are going to be most impacted by this new development, can really be part of a process that can really shape, what their vision is, right? What are local priorities? What are local needs in the community? And how through revitalization, how can that really be addressed? So what are community benefits? Community benefits are usually additional physical, social, and/or economic benefits that are leveraged from major infrastructure and land development projects. In the city of Toronto, we have many projects that are already include community benefits. A good example would be the Eglinton Crosstown LRT, which we'll share a video shortly. We also have other public projects like the West Park Healthcare Center. We also have the McDonald Block Reconstruction Project, which is another community benefits project. And pretty much community benefits ensure equitable economic opportunities that promote economic inclusion for people from historically disadvantaged communities and equity-seeking groups. Community benefits can also contribute to the development of a system of training and workforce development programs that can enable economic inclusion. Community benefits can also contribute to sustainable communities with neighborhood improvements as well as environmental improvements. And then lastly, which is I think the most important component of community benefits, is that it ensures clear commitments, targets, monitoring, as well as accountability mechanisms from all parties to deliver on community benefits. So making sure that we have community groups like RPNA, like TCHC, as well as the future developer, we're all working together to come together to ensure there's clear commitments, targets, as well as a process for monitoring. And we heard a little bit from Sean about the community benefits working group, which hopefully will also take a role in terms of monitoring the outcomes of those commitments. Next slide. In simpler terms, community benefits are financial or in-kind investments made by the selected developer that would be beneficial to Regent Park residents and the overall well-being of the community. You may have seen some of these terms that you are unfamiliar with in the more formal definition, but don't worry, we'll cover those topics in future learning opportunities that Deany will expand more in the next few slides. Sean?
Okay, thank you so much, Kumsa. We're going to start up a video. I'm going to start up the video soon, so hopefully this works okay. Just your patience with us as we bring that forward. Kumsa, are we able to see the video right now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we'll start up the video.
My name is Ahmed Abdi.
My name is Renee Roy.
My name is Jonathan Habta. I'm the first person to get hired through the Community Benefits Program with Metrolink.
Projects such as Eglinton Crosstown, which is the largest transportation infrastructure project in Canada, as a way of transforming local communities.
United Way for decades has brought people together, but we always lacked the glue to make it stick and find tangible ways to get people good jobs in specific neighborhoods. And then pops in Metrolinks.
Community benefits usually includes jobs and apprenticeships and professional administrative and technical jobs. It also usually includes contracts and social procurement for local, social, and diverse businesses.
This is project and policy innovation at its best. You're building a $5.3 billion light rail transit in a way that's bringing community to the table, inviting them in from the beginning.
It's good for younger people and for newcomer people.
We have seen firsthand that community benefits really changes lives.
You've given me a chance to get a stable home. My truck is just a vehicle now, and this is kind of my community now.
I was able to support my wife, my new family, and prepare for my kid. Apprenticeships like this are important because they give youth a different route, something productive, something that has the potential to make a lot of money and get a lot of transferable skills.
A life changed, but an entire neighborhood transformed with jobs and dollars going back into that local economy.
The great lessons we've learned on Eglinton and the Community Benefits Program provides us with an excellent platform to roll these same benefits out on our other LRT programs, but also on our really big program, which is the GO expansion.
10 years from now, I want us to be able to look back and say, With the public infrastructure dollars we spent, we not only built a world-class piece of infrastructure, we are intentional about ensuring that those in the community who needed opportunity most actually shared in the benefits of that project.
It is the blueprint for us and for inclusive economic growth in this province and in this country.
Because in the end, our mission is to connect our communities, and we do that even better when there are more local benefits for those communities.
So that is the video from the Eglinton Crosstown and Metrolink. And I'll just have Jonella share the screen again for the presentation. And then we're going to start up a poll. And Kumsa, before we get into the poll, if you could talk about some of the learning opportunities that we want to ask people about, and then we'll start up the poll from there.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. In terms of the opportunities for community members to learn more, I think that this session today is going to provide you with a lot of information about community benefits, but we're hoping that this is just the start. And in the coming months, as a developer is selected, that will, as the Regent Park Community Benefits Coalition, in partnership with other groups, that will be able to come forward with learning sessions where you learn more about, what are the different potential community benefits that can be leveraged from this new development here in Regent Park. So things like, looking at employment opportunities, looking at other opportunities around affordable home ownership, looking at community spaces, other things like social procurement. There's a wide range of community benefits that have been highlighted as key priorities in their neighborhood. So things will include a Community Benefits 101, and then also a little bit more about the RPNA's Community Benefits Coalition. So, if you want to learn more about requests for proposals in the RFP process, the Community Benefits Framework, as well as the Community Benefits Priorities Report. Yeah, so I mentioned some of the community benefits could be through jobs, others could be non-job opportunities. There can also be learning exchanges. So also recognizing that other communities have also gone through community benefits. So hearing from other communities and what that process has been like. And then overall, I think like the whole goal that we're really trying to achieve here is really social cohesion and inclusion in building the best complete community as possible for the future of Regent Park. So, what are ways that we can increase benefits to ensure that there's equity within the community is going to be really important.
Great, thank you so much, Kumsa. Annisha, are you able to launch the poll and talk a little bit about how the poll works?
Sean, Ismail here. If Annisha is not able to, I can launch the poll as well.
Great, thanks, Ismail. So what we would like you to do is, if you're on your computer—
As mentioned before, if you're joining in through a device, the poll should be on your screen now. However, for those who are joining by phone, I will go through each of the workshops one by one. Please press *9 to the workshops that interest you. So this might take a little bit, but we can do this. So the first workshop is Community Benefits 101. So if that is something you would like to learn about, please press *9. I'll just give folks a few moments to do that. Okay, perfect. Perfect. So got 2 responses, perfect. So I'll continue on with the next with the next workshop. So if you are interested in RPNA's Community Benefits Coalition and learning more about request for proposal, the Community Benefits Framework, and the Community Benefits Priorities, if you're on joining in by calling, please press *9. So again, please press *9 if this is a workshop that interests you. Okay, perfect. The third workshop is community benefits through jobs. So what that looks like is the construction industry, pathways to jobs, etc. If you would like to learn more about that, please press *9. Again, please press *9 if this is something that interests you. Perfect. The fourth workshop is community benefits which are considered non-jobs. Please press *9 if this is something you would like to learn about. Thank you for all the inputs coming in. And the fifth workshop is learning exchange between different neighborhoods who have been going through community benefits or have done so in the past. Please press *9 if this is something you would like to learn about. Okay. And lastly, the workshop is increasing benefits for your whole community, improving social inclusion and equity, and enhancing equity. So if you're calling in, please press *9 if this is something that interests you. Perfect. That is all. Thank you so much to everyone who participated. Perfect. We have one more coming in. Okay. Thank you very much. Here are some results from the poll. It seems like we have very good interest in some of these workshops. When these workshops come up, we will give you more information and we'll keep the community updated. So thank you for everyone who participated. Okay. So Jonella, I believe we can pass this. So now we're here for the Q&A session where we can hear your important questions after this very informative and wonderful presentation all the speakers gave. Thank you so much, speakers. So how this is going to work is we have a Q&A function where you can type in your questions. You can also ask your questions live by raising hands. So everyone who's joining in with a device, there is a raise hand button on your lower screen. For those who are calling in, my friends, please press *9 so we're notified that you are raising hands. And translators, please type in any questions on our chat box. And I wanted to invite Walied to facilitate this component. Take it away, Walied.
Thank you very much, Annisha. I just want to first of all thank everyone who continues to be a part of this very important conversation, and folks that have actually shown interest in the various workshops where they could learn more about not just community benefits, but also other opportunities. But what we want to do next is hear from you. So what I will be doing is I'm going to be alternating from folks who are joining us via Zoom and those who are calling in. I'll be hopefully reading out their questions if folks can hear them in any way. So we'll start off with our first question. So I'm looking at the chat function. Someone asked the question about, I want to know, how do I get involved with the organization? What are some of the current opportunities? So how do you get involved with this community benefits efforts? Excellent question. So we will be talking about how to get more involved and why you should be more involved shortly. But there is a website, regentparkcoalition.ca. It's the coalition's website. It's a resource so that you have a better sense of who are involved in the community benefits efforts and also the opportunities that will be made available when folks choose to be involved in this amazing opportunity to advocate for community-led solutions. So I'm going to now take questions from the phone. So whoever's facilitating, could you help? Yep, someone on the phone there. Go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello, this is Michael. I wanted to say something about the community-controlled space. So there are a number of different spaces that either already exist or will come out in phases 4 and 5, but we wanted to make sure one of them is going to be community-controlled, which means a space where there's a separate board of management like the 519 Community Center or the Ralph Horton Community Center, and that the use of the space is not already being pre-allocated, so that the community board can make allocation of the space. And so essentially the City of Toronto and TCHC and the developer have to figure out amongst themselves which of the existing spaces they plan to build would be community controlled, or if all of the spaces they're currently planning to build are pre-allocated and already determined in use, then we would have to ask for them to build at least some additional space and then set up a community board such as the 519 Community Center that can control this new space, which would essentially operate under the City of Toronto if it's through that model, or it could be a slightly different model if necessary. But we wanted to make sure that it's not confused with all the other community spaces that exist, that at least one of the community spaces is distinctly community controlled. So I just wanted to make sure people understood that as a distinct category.
Thank you very much, Michael, for that comment and for identifying the distinction between community-run spaces and just community spaces. And I believe that's also been was also discussed in the community priorities report. But we have a bunch of questions that have are similar that are Zoom calls, so it's all related to ownership.
Walied, can I add something to that comment that was made by Michael?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead. Before I address the next point, go ahead.
Yes, and I think Michael is right in terms of this. And community space in Regent Park, we have a lot of space. We have Toronto Community Housing space. We have a lot of organizational space. We have the city space, the McConnell Aquatic Center. We have the community center. So there are a lot of space in our neighborhood. However, the problem has been accessibility. Community members are not able to access after 5 o'clock. They're not able to access Saturdays and Sundays. So community hours, some of these spaces are hard to access, and also you need actual staff there. Residents themselves cannot just make use after 5 o'clock. So there's a lot of policy. And also the community building working group is working on this issue as well. That is why in community benefits, the developer that is selected, and they're creating, when there's an opportunity to create a space, we want to make sure that this is not just city-owned space or just organization-only space. We want it to be so community-friendly that the board, the decision makers of that space, that the community be, and we're exploring different models. And I think Michael referred to a model as well. So I think that's why it's important that we make phases 4 and 5 spaces much more community owned and much more community decision made. And I wanted to just highlight that as well.
Well said, Ismail. Thank you so much for raising that very crucial point of community governed spaces to meet community needs. And there has been precedent set, not just in our city, but in other major cities. So it's a wonderful opportunity to make sure that that need is met in phase 4 and 5. But now I want to go to the next questions that came in through the chat on Zoom. They all relate to home ownership. And so we've got questions from Ronnie. We've got questions from some anonymous attendees as well. And the questions relate to how do I apply for home ownership? And then the second question is where can I go learn more about home ownership? And so basically, can you send us more information about home ownership? So what I would like to do next is if Sean or someone else could just make sure that we went to the Regent Park Coalition website, if we could show that, because that will be a good place to start off that information regarding what that looks, what that means and what it looks like, and also the history of such programs when it comes to revitalization, specifically in the first phases of Regent Park. So you'll learn more about the Boost program and other programs. So we can make that happen. Yeah.
I can answer on that. So in terms of the other programs, in terms of affordable home ownership in the past, you're right, there was the Boost program that was in place before. That is a program where residents could get a 10% boost. And then there was the foundation program that was a second mortgage and was a greater boost. Due to increasing home prices, it's more difficult to do affordable home ownership currently. But this is something certainly that has been brought forward as an idea in the priority report that the Community Benefits Coalition had developed. And affordable home ownership is certainly something that the community could decide through the one-year process to allocate funds towards. So that how those funds, whatever is determined and negotiated with the developers are spent, that'll be determined in the one-year process, which we'll talk about a little bit more in some future slides. But that's certainly something that could be a community priority, and the funds could be allocated. And I think there was a lot of interest in the polls to learn about affordable home ownership. So certainly we'll make sure that we have a workshop that focuses on affordable home ownership so that folks really learn about affordable home ownership and understand what exactly that means and how that could possibly be done. And I know certainly too that there's advocacy work that the coalition would want to do to try and create more opportunities for affordable home ownership too.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you so much for that answer. I just also want to go on the phone, one last question through the phone, and then we'll probably move on to the next phase after one other question that was just sent in. So could anyone on the phone want to ask the question? Just please proceed. Okay, seeing no question on the phone. What I'm gonna do is go to the next questions that came in through the chat. So basically, there's a question regarding involvement, which I think is very important for those who want to support this work but have immune compromised. So, you know, how could they get involved? So I'm gonna ask Marlene or anyone else who would like to address that, if there's other opportunities for people who like to involve. But I know through the coalition, maybe participating over the phone and other means is a way to get involved, so that we could also ensure that if you're immunocompromised, that all your needs are also addressed. So if you want to get involved, I will be talking about that later on, and you can sign up so you can get more information. The other question that came in is with regarding to elected representatives, so specifically MP Bill Morneau. Is he listening to the community? I just want to say that we have reached out to our elected representatives. As a community, we've met with not just our provincial member of parliament, Suze Morrison. We had a delegation meet with her office, with her specifically, but also Bill Morneau's office. And we also have been in constant contact with our city councilor, Christine Wong Tam, when it pertains to community benefits. So we have been collaborating and working with our elected representatives to make sure they understand the community priorities, but we will also appreciate your support and your involvement by being involved in the Community Benefits Coalition to better engage with decision makers, including Toronto Community Housing and the developers on how to best support your needs. Okay. So there's two questions that came in from Amin, one of our translators. One is construction noise. River buildings start construction from 6 p.m. It's too early and too noisy. Who's responsible for that? And any improvements that can be done. So thank you so much, Lisa, for that question on behalf of members of our community. So with regards to construction noise, I think I'll leave that question to Sean or our friends from TCHC on how best community members can express their concerns regarding construction, and also how they could propose better timelines, because some folks have issues with the timing of the construction as well. So Sean?
Thanks, Walied. So one thing I'll just mention too, just to the previous question about community engagement, I think we would in TCHC also commit to working through virtual means and lots of different means through the computer to ensure people can be involved if they're immune compromised. And regarding the question around the earlier start time for the construction site on River Street, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, the province of Ontario provided for a new law that allowed construction sites to start earlier than they previously started prior to the pandemic. And so they're now allowed to start earlier. And part of the reason for this is to ensure physical distancing and proper shift changes can happen through the construction industry. So for the contractors that are building and starting at 6 a.m., the law does allow them to start construction at that time. And it is a provincial law, and it's in force during the COVID-19 pandemic. So any sort of feedback or suggestions regarding those concerns for construction times would need to go towards your provincial representative, so Suze Morrison, and to see if there can be any change regarding those laws. But the contractors and construction companies are following the law by starting earlier. And I think we have a limited amount of time. Perhaps, Walied, there's time for one more question.
Yep, we have one more question that we could probably ask. So the last question for the day that hasn't been addressed is specifically folks who are tenants. This is from some translators about home ownership. So I think we'll make sure that that info session is held so that more people can, be able to get information regarding that program and the programs underway. I think that's basically it.
There's one more I see, Walied, at the
Which
bottom.
one?
It says, as a recent graduate and TCHC member, I know finding entry-level jobs is sticky, especially with current times. What opportunities are out there currently, and or any other upcoming work/volunteer opportunities in the community for young people to get involved? Any websites, links, or organizations to look into would be useful.
Excellent question, and centered on the experiences of youth and folks looking for employment in our community. I think what we will be able to do is actually I believe like there are jobs that are available on the City of Toronto website. So if you look up the jobs portion of it, with regards to job opportunities in Regent Park, I think that's actually constructive feedback. I think something that we should explore as a community to have a website where all these opportunities are listed. I know TCHC also provides employment and they list their jobs on their website. I'm going to ask Marlene or Ismail to answer whether RPNA and other organizations do the same.
Yes, what I wanted to say was in the social development plan, we have 4 working groups working in the neighborhood, and one of them is employment opportunities. In that working group, they are trying to unify all the opportunities that are happening in the neighborhood and all the opportunities that are happening outside the neighborhood. So they have key projects that they're working on. One is to analyze what are the needs, specific needs, not just general, of our community. What are our youths interested in? What are some other residents interested in? So that when we have those specific needs, they're working to make sure that the organizations that do employment in the neighborhood, just as Yonge Street Mission, Dixon Hall, the City of Toronto, all of them can streamline so the opportunities are clear. We also have, and I think Marlene can speak to this, around the communication strategy by the communication working group, so that all these information that residents need can be found in one place. So volunteer opportunities, employment opportunities, and I think there's also the website regionparksocial.org where these are captured. But I think I'm going to let Marlene, as the communication chair, also say something about how what employment is doing and how we can streamline residents' benefit in terms of communicating this to them. Marlene, if you're able to.
Hi. Yeah, we're in the communication working group. We've been doing some collaborative work. We haven't quite made our decision yet, but possibly doing a collaborative thing, hoping to streamline the whole communication bundle, basically, so that we, starting with RPNA website, where you would go into our website, and from there you would branch into everything else you need within the neighborhood, and then outside of the neighborhood as well, if you wish. But anything you could possibly need within your neighborhood, you would find in one spot. Everything from medical to emergency to entertainment to just what's going on in the neighborhood. So you're not going everywhere, including, being into, Regent Park TV, the entire package in one place. Because right now you go everywhere for communication. It's very confusing. And people don't know where to go for various resources. And we're working really hard at this point to try and gather it all together. And it's going to be, when we get this done, it's going to be phenomenal. It's very exciting.
And there are employment opportunities also coming to Regent Park. And those employment opportunities are not only just the organizations hiring, but the social development plan. There's some money that we've received, about $500,000 from the city, and that $500,000 opportunities, local employment opportunities, will be coming through. We're looking to hire different people to support each of the working groups, and I think just within the past 3 months, 4 different employment opportunities went out. So if you want to connect with that, please connect with the RPNA website and ask the organizations, speak to anybody you see today, and we'll make sure that those opportunities, and we also have a WhatsApp group to deliver that information. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ismail, for all that very, very detailed response to that question. Also, you can go to Regent Park Social, which was the website where you logged in to join this meeting in the first place, where opportunities are also listed. That's a good start to looking to opportunities in Regent Park. So thank you so much. Now we've concluded our Q&A section of this meeting. So now we're going to move on to the next item.
And the next item is with Deany. So we'll pass it to Deany.
Hello. Thank you. So yes, I get to encourage people about getting involved, and why should you get involved, and why we've talked about a number of upcoming learning opportunities that you will be invited to. And we want really like to have an opportunity for the residents to feel that they have a real good sense of confidence, when they enter into the consultation phase, which will be over a year. So we want you to get involved and to attend some of the learning opportunities so that you will feel confident and you'll be well informed and be able to make informed decisions, so that you'll have the language that you need to engage in the community benefits process. Again, as we mentioned earlier, there are a lot of different terms and words and expressions that are, they're common to the sector of community benefits, but they're very unfamiliar to us. But when we can speak in those languages confidently, we know we can have a much better impact and a much greater sense of influence. And we want you to feel confident and empowered. We want you to be fully equipped when you engage in this decision-making process, so that you will have a strong and powerful voice, because residents know what residents need. And we should never have anything going on here without us. So I highly encourage everyone who can to please partake in the opportunities to learn more and become experts in community benefits.
Yeah, thank you so much, Deany. And what I'm going to be talking about next is how you can get involved. Just remember that this process is not possible without your involvement. And we have done our very best to make sure that you have as much information as possible so that you're able to get involved in this amazing opportunity to contribute to building our community. So the first thing that you can do is you can join the Community Benefits Working Group. That's going to help support the SDP process, the Social Development Plan that we discussed earlier. In fact, it was folks or members of the coalition that moved a motion to revise the terms of reference so that the community benefits process is part of the purview of the SDP, so that we are working with agencies in our community, we're working with all stakeholders of our community, and making sure that we collaborate in the delivery of not just investment, but also promoting opportunities as well. The second thing is to get involved in the Community Benefits Coalition itself. I would love for all of you to visit the regentparkcoalition.ca website. It's a great resource. It's where you can find out more about our campaign to secure a community benefits agreement, where there's a timeline of all the great work that members of the community have been involved with. It also has our community priorities report, which many of you asked and also discussed when it pertains to home ownership. So it's a great resource, and it's a great way to find out more about our future meetings, which we will also be promoting on the website. And if you actually show interest, please do let us know on the chat box if you're interested in being part of the Regent Park Coalition, and we'll for sure send you details about our next meeting. The next thing is advocate for possible enhancements to the CBA, which is very important. We are going to move towards a process where we'll be reviewing the plan and also actually building the plan as a community. It's not just a process that just involves the developer and TCHC, but it's going to involve us as a community on how we would like to see the community benefits be applied and which priorities are going to be funded through this process. And if you're more interested in getting involved and finding out more about what's going on in our community, please get involved in our neighborhood association. The Regent Park Neighborhood Association is a great resource for each one of you. It's a place that we should call home. It's the home of actually our coalition as a community benefits movement here in Regent Park. So please email rpna.info@gmail.com for more information. And if you want more information about the RPNA, please let us know on the chat box, and we could follow up with you with regards to that information. Now, what comes next is the next thing that we're going to discuss, which is the most important thing. We need your involvement so that we could accomplish the following, which is what we hope to do next. The first thing is understanding. We'll make sure everyone understands what community benefits are, and so that we could develop our capacity as a community. There's going to be an announcement made by the developer, which Sean's going to talk about next.
So I'll jump in here. Thanks, Walied, for starting that off. This timeline that you're seeing in front of you is just a rough idea. It's some initial ideas, and it's not yet finalized. So the timeline that we're looking at, we're first going to make sure that community members really have a strong understanding of what community benefits are, and that you can really participate, as Deany was mentioning earlier, in a very meaningful way. There'll be some decision making as part of that, and community members will be able to give their input and help make decisions. And then as the information comes in from residents about what you would like to see in your neighborhood and in your community related to community benefits, we'll make a plan, and we'll ensure that the plan is supported by the neighborhood. Finally, we'll get into getting things done, and that means implementing whatever community benefits have been decided in the community. And as Walied mentioned, as we move forward and we're developing folks' understanding and we're working through this one-year process, in the fall, we will announce who the selected developer is. And when we have that selected developer announced, then we can work together with that developer on this critical work of creating a community benefits plan. Next slide, please. So there are some next steps that are happening immediately. So there's two groups that are kind of operating within Regent Park. There's the Community Benefits Coalition, which is an independent, resident-led advocacy group, and there's the Community Benefits Working Group. The Community Benefits Working Group is going to be a group of residents and TCHC and the selected developer working together to create an engagement strategy and an accountability structure. And if you want to get involved in that group, please be on the lookout. We'll be outreaching in the neighborhood to get folks to that table, and you can help us figure out how we'll connect with community members and ensure your participation and create some real opportunities here. So I'll throw it next to the poll, and I'll ask Ismail to help facilitate this with Annisha. So I can keep on going. I'll just ask, unless Ismail, there we go. We've got folks putting in pieces here. Annisha, are you able to facilitate this part?
Yeah, for sure. So this is another poll. You've seen this before. So we wanted to do another poll for the post survey. We wanted to understand, what folks' level of understanding was after this informative presentation. And as Deany and Kumsa also mentioned earlier, we want to do a learning series. So this will kind of help us with, understanding what kind of workshops we want to see. So again, my friends who are calling in, I see some inputs coming in for folks with the device. For everyone who's calling in, I'll read the options one more time. So the question is, how much did you learn about community benefits through this presentation? So if you feel like you learned a lot, my friends on the phone, please press *9. Okay, perfect. If you feel like you learned some things from this presentation, please press *9. Perfect. *3, perfect. And if you feel like you need more knowledge-based meetings like this or workshops to learn more, and please press *9. Perfect. Okay, thank you so much. Perfect. We still have some coming in. Okay, thank you so much for participating in this poll. Okay, perfect. Thank you all for your input. As mentioned earlier, we will notify you when we do have more workshops and meetings like this coming up for community benefits. I think we can move on. Okay, so I guess we can come to the end of our meeting. Thank you all so much for attending community benefits meeting. We hope this was very informative for you. I'll let the other panelists speak, but before that, I wanted to just let folks know that we will be sending a slide deck and more information to folks for two TCHC residents. And a reminder again, this meeting will be up on regionparkfocus.com plus Regent Park TV on YouTube, and you can email rpna.info@gmail.com for more information. So I'll pass it on to our panelists to give some closing remarks, and then we can end it there. Thank you so much.
I like to do the practice we did at the safety town hall, where we get the panelists the attendees to come what do you call, as panelists so that we can see their faces at the end.
That would be great. Can we stop sharing the screen, please, Jonella, just so we can see everyone's cameras? And we'll start. If you don't want to be promoted into a panelist, then that's fine. We'll just turn your camera off. So Jonella, if you can stop sharing screen.
Yep. I just
Okay.
want to thank all the participants because we're losing some folks. I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in and have a lovely day.
Thank you, everyone, for all your contributions and for everyone that helped to plan and make this happen. Thanks, everyone.
And we hope we'll see you all again.
Okay,
Nice to
thank
see
you.
you, Suzanne.
Okay, bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
I see Miguel. I see I see Barb. I see
Hey, Sam.
Of course, you know me too.
There we go.
we did it.
We did. God almighty.
Can we,
Oh,
Sam,
there's
can we
Kelly.
stop the live? Sam, can we stop the live